Doctor Yellow, Doctor Yellow, yeah, yeah, yeah. Doctor Yellow, Doctor Yellow, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So do I got a loaded one for you today? We got a lot to explain about a recent pre-order that has dropped from Japan, which has created a lot of discussion in the Transformer fandom. So I'm going to try to clear everything up, what's going on here, and make sense of everything like we do here on the Transformer Slag podcast. So let's take a step back. So back in July of 2022, we talked about a new Transformers manga story that was included in the Transformers Generation Guidebook of that year. That manga was called The Train Wars: The Origin. It was a story written by Mr. Kiss Players himself, Yuki Ashima. He also drew it. And it talked about the untold origin of the Trainbots, the traditional Japanese Trainbots that we know and love, as well as their prototype brothers and sisters that came before them, that were actually developed before even they were. This whole story kind of served as a way to promote the new MPG Mastepiece line with the Trainbots, and even give them a little bit of continuity and explain where they came from, and I mean, even continue the lore and story of, the Kiss Player characters like Atari, Dr. Fujiyama from Enter Nightbird, and even Nightbird herself. And this would all be based in the future year of 2011. A somewhat sequel to Kiss Players, the manga, also kind of a prequel to the Headmasters anime. Again, explaining where Raiden and the Trainbots pretty much came from, since they kind of just showed up in the Headmasters anime show. So that's what that all kind of was meant to be. An advertisement for Mastepiece with its MPG stuff, as well as everything else. But the big takeaway from all of that in that manga story was that the Trainbots had prototype siblings. And they would get a little bit of time to shine here and there. But one of them was a big kind of standout, and one of them was Doctor, also known as Doctor Yellow, a new Fembot that was a repaint of the Trainbot Yuki Kaze, which was going to be getting a Mastepiece release I think it was like that week or that month or something. This was a prototype character, part of the G-Liner prototype team, as Dr. Fujiyama called them. And they all were colored like the second run color schemes of their original Diaclone Trainbots. It had a much more limited release. That's why a lot of people weren't familiar with those color schemes. And they were quite different from that of the original ones. And of course, those original colors would be used for the 1987 Raiden Trainbots that we saw in Headmasters and the release in Japan. And those second run colors got a much more limited release, and we didn't really see much of them until they were pretty much brought to our attention here with all those sibling members and stuff. And of course, Dr. Yellow being the one that was really focused on. A few weeks later, after that manga was released in Generations Guidebook, Takara Tomy designer Kojin Ono, who not only designed the original Trainbots back in 1983, but also the new MPG Mastepiece ones, would go on to say that he'd actually like to do a few of those one-shot prototype colors using the MPG Raiden molds. And when MPG Raiden is complete, they could look into it. Maybe do one or two. Who knows? Maybe even Dr. Yellow would be the one that they would do. And that was that. So today we're talking about a Japanese retailer pre-order image that has surfaced of a Dr. Yellow. But people are confused. Why is this Dr. Yellow using the Shouki mold, the leader of the Trainbots, instead of the Yuki Kaze, which was featured in the manga, which was that Fembot character? It's kind of weird because even the original Dr. Yellow used the Yuki Kaze mold with the original Raiden back in the day, all the way back in 1983, although it wasn't called Raiden back then, but the Trainbots. Well, there's a lot going on here, and we'll kind of break it down and make sense of it because there's a whole bunch of argument and discussion going on all over the place. So the reason because this whole thing happened is it's kind of the whole purpose of the Raiden project that was done with MPG was to create these hyper-realistic trains for Japanese train enthusiasts using the Mastepiece line. It was this big thing, and they finally completed it, and Raiden is done now. And now they're going to be looking into other characters and continuing this but they want to keep that tradition of the hyper-realism. Originally back in 1983, when they did that original Diaclone Doctor Yellow, it wasn't actually accurate. They used that Yuki Kaze mold because it was close enough. And again, since that train was so small to begin with, that original toy, and the detail wasn't too much to really worry about, especially for like the detailing. And let's be honest, it was 1983. You could kind of get away with all kinds of stuff. Look at even other Transformer toys based on their animation counterparts. They figured they could get away with it because it was close enough. The funny thing is the Shouki mold is actually closer to what a Dr. Yellow would look like in real life, but they gave it a silver treatment instead, and they used the Yuki Kaze for the yellow one. So you fast forward to today, and Takara Tomy is now tasked with bringing the yellow Dr. Yellow train to life, but they don't want to use that MPG-03 Yuki Kaze mold, because that one's now super detailed and much larger, and it would be very clear that it's not a Dr. Yellow bullet train. So Takara decided to use the Shouki mold instead, make it a completely different character than the one featured in the manga, and that is that. Yup, this is not the prototype Dr. Yellow Fembot from the manga. This is Trainbot Ginoh from the Diaclone catalog art. Hear me out. I know this is a long one. Bear with me. So, the Japanese retailer pre-order image, we have some information here. And here on the Transformer Slag podcast, we're going to do what we always do. I'm going to snap my finger, and we're going to translate all of that for you right now on the screen, if you are watching. So it says it's Ginoh. Now, let's break down what they wrote here. The 7th in the MPG series transforms into a 922 Type 10 T2 formation yellow Dr. Yellow train. Trainbot Ginoh appears. And then, of course, you have all the information again. Can be transformed into 3 forms, meaning the vehicle mode, the robot mode, and the combined chess mode. Ginoh can be swapped with Shouki when combined, making it possible to create a new combined form of Raiden. So we have all that there. Now, this character is named Ginoh. I've broken down the Japanese hiragana, and indeed it does not say doctor, but instead Ginoh. And it doesn't really mean anything, Ginoh, in Japanese. I mean, obviously Ginoh has its connotations in American vernacular in relation to Italians and stuff like that. But in Japanese, there isn't really much. There's a guitar company called Ginoh. That's really about it. So they just went with that. Maybe it's an Italian Transformer. Who knows? But either way, it's Ginoh the Trainbot. But what about that Diaclone catalog character claim that I just said? Well, I have one small reason for that. While this is straight up a yellow repaint of Dr. Yellow out of Shouki, the combined mode has a unique chest kind of look for the Raiden combiner part. The details are hard to see due to the low quality of this pre-order image, but if you match it up next to the catalog design, you can actually see that there's a lot of similarities there, especially the detail in the top and bottom of the chest. And again, based on that second run color and not the original Raiden. So, it's something where the original Raiden has that blue chest, the second run had that red chest that kind of had, very limited detail and stuff. And then you have this artwork that was in the catalog that had its own unique chest. And that one it's based on. So this is a character that isn't the prototype Team G-Liner, isn't the original Raiden team. This is a brand new character named Trainbot Ginoh, and that is that, based off of a piece of catalog art. Isn't that wild? Maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm just saying. So what do we know? Pre-orders are going to be going live in just a few days, January 12th, 2024, Japan time. So just maybe, we might get a Fembot Yellow, Dr. Yellow character at some point in the future from the Yuki Kaze mold. But for the time being, they're going with extreme train realism accuracy with a brand new character named Trainbot Ginoh. It is what it is. It is Japan, and it gets even crazier as time progresses. Let me know what you think, guys, and we'll break it more down as time progresses. Obviously, when these pre-orders go live, we'll get better images and deeper information from Takara. Stay tuned for that, like you always do here on the Transformer Slag podcast, and I hope you learned something today, and thank you for listening.